is what happened last time when it kept saying not live yet. And we are live, folks. Welcome back to Honestly Speaking. As we say, as per usual, how are you doing? Hopefully, you have a community that you are pouring into and one that is pouring into you. Now, before we even get started, if you are streaming this on my YouTube live or on Facebook, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Now, today is going to be a great day, folks. Today is going to be a great day. Tag some people too. Tag some people too. Today is going to be a great day. We're actually talking to a few veterans in honor of Veterans Day. In honor of Veterans Day, we're talking to a few veterans. Please tap in, ask questions. You know how we do here. Keep it very honest. But before we get into that, let's just do a recap of stuff that's going on. Marcus, before I talk about anything that I want to talk about, is there anything that's going on in the universe that you feel like so inclined to speak about?
Um, so what do we got? This Rittenhouse guy. He's
Yeah,
going
you.
for the Oscar. Really putting on a performance from all the accounts that I've been getting. I haven't been tuning in, but you can't miss it on social media. People post clips and there's memes and like the crying Rittenhouse. I think is going to take over for the crying Jordan and the crying Will Smith. Um, but on a serious note on that case, there seems to be some deficiencies with the judge and how things are going. Um, I watched the video that you sent me earlier about him chastising the prosecution. Um, the good thing was that he didn't chastise them in front of the jury, but the fact that he still chastised them was something. I think that's the most prominent issue that's going on right now.
Yeah,
You
the judge in the Kyle Rittenhouse case does seem to be biased. I mean, we'll have to see how it plays out. I rarely put hope. Some trust in chariots, some trust in horses, some trust in donkeys, some trust in elephants. I don't trust in none of them. Um, I trust in God alone. But yeah, it doesn't seem like it just doesn't look well for the prosecution. And there's already been, and for those of you who don't know, we're talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse case, the young man who crossed state lines with a weapon and ended up killing, I believe it was two people, and wounding and maiming another person. And there were so many things that are happening. And what is kind of striking from the beginning is the fact that the judge actually stated that he believed that the selection of the jury was biased, and yet he still allowed the prosecution to have that particular selection. So that's kind of weird. um and so only God knows how it's going to go. And on the other hand, there is the case that's going on right now that people aren't talking about, for the people that killed Ahmaud Arbery. So it's interesting to watch these two things take place right now. Something else that's happening, people want to talk about Sierra praying with a witch or something. um, People are talking about that concert, that Astro World concert, where people were killed. And I'm not saying unfortunately in the, you know, how the media says unfortunately to like really detach themselves, but unfortunately there were people who actually lost their lives. Um, and if the more you look into it, the more you realize a lot of this stuff is wicked. A lot of this stuff is wicked. And on a sports side of things, uh, I think our dreams in Philly are beginning, maybe crushed, that we would get Brown for Ben Simmons, because there have been several hit pieces that have been put out there to kind of kill that as an option. But I'm still trying to keep hope alive that Philly would get Brown for Ben Simmons. I would give Ben Simmons and Green for Brown. What do you think about that? Ben Simmons and Green?
Yeah, I'm fine with Ben Simmons and Green.
Yeah.
Green has disappeared since the bubble. Um, last year with the Lakers, he hasn't been much of a player since Toronto. Ben Simmons and Green, I'm with. Ben
Yeah,
Simmons and
not Maxi
Maxey,
though.
no. Ben Simmons and Thibault, I still got to think about. But Ben Simmons and Green, hey man, I drive them to Boston myself
Not Ben
any
Simmons
day.
and Thibault because that's just too much defense on defense. You know,
But what
Thibault.
I'm Thibault is a valuable piece, so they would ask for him. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
I would I wouldn't absolutely positively say no, but
Hmm.
I would have to think long and hard. Like if they take Thibault, they got to give us back some picks and maybe another role player, which we don't really need, but just make a little bit more enticing for us. But definitely Ben Simmons and Green, I'm with. Maxi's off limits. I think he's on his way to being a pretty solid player in this league. And we don't want the stigmatism that every Philly fan tends to um, harp onto. When we trade them, they become stars. Like they say that so often, and I don't believe that is true as much as other people believe that is true. So I would hate for it to happen now, and for it to perpetuate a stigmatism that I don't believe is accurate.
Stigma. You say stigmatism,
My bad, stigma.
but
I, I,
we know
I
what you
got a
mean.
stigmatism. That's what I would mean. I got one of those.
But definitely, we don't want just wrapping up a conversation on recent things. We definitely want for Ben Simmons to get out of Philly because nobody wants to be in a relationship with somebody that doesn't want to be in a relationship with you. I mean, that's the reality of the situation right now. He doesn't want to be here. Philly, they say it's one of the hardest places to be. It's not. It's just difficult at times. I don't know where Marcus went, but he'll be right back. And speaking of Marcus coming right back, today is Veterans Day. And right now, some people are used to this panel, right? So some people are used to this panel and they're like, Lee, where are the other people? And why is it just you and Marcus from Honestly Speaking on here? Well, what you don't know, we've talked about before, you've seen him before, kind of flex a little para. Marcus is a Marine. So in honor of Veterans Day, oh, we put it. We didn't know it was gonna be a gun show. Marcus is a Marine, and and so I said I wanted to honor the people who serve us and are often like misunderstood. So I thought about that, and I have some great friends, and Marcus knows some great folks too who are also in their service members and service people, and so we just said, how about we talk? So I'm going to invite everybody up right now. All right. I'm inviting some good folks up. Hey, 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 everybody. Hey, everybody.
Yeah, the whole team
Hey,
is here.
Hey. So, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to ask that everybody mute themselves unless they're speaking. So, unless you're like Marcus knows how it goes, just keep yourself on mute unless you're speaking. So, I'm going to ask everybody, I'm going to say your name. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and what branches of the armed service that you served in, how long did you serve, and, like you can say your rank if you want to. You know, some people like to say their rank or whatever. And then some people do. And then what do you do? What do you do? All right, so I'll start with Tamina Ward, ladies first. All right.
Hey, 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 thank you so much. You guys are so amazing. So happy to be here. Veterans Day. Saw Marcus flexing with his arm. My name is Tamina Ward. I actually spent 20 years in the United States Marine Corps. I just retired in June as a
Yes.
master sergeant. Yeah, we do like to flex our rank, which is an E8, in case no one knows. And I am currently a certified life coach. I am a public speaking coach, so I help people build courage and confidence to speak up and show up and shine, whether it's on stage or whether it's on social media. So great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're just going to go around. We're going to take it with Malik Gray next. Malik Gray, could you tell us a bit about yourself?
sure. Thank you for having me. So Malik Gray served in the U.S. Army Reserves 8 years. I had the rank of staff sergeant, completed 2 tours of duty, including Iraq, and I was an MP. And presently, well, not presently, and for 25 years, I've been a social worker.
All right. Thank you. And D Bell.
Yes, thanks for having me. Glad to be on the panel. Yep, Diamond Bell from Philadelphia. I served 6 years in the U.S. Air Force as an intel analyst. Currently, I'm in IT, software sales, software architecture, and whatnot. And oh, my rank, I was an E5, a staff sergeant.
Excellent. Thank you. Rudolph.
Hey, my name is, well, as you see on the thing, I'm Rudolph Robertson. I did 4 years in the Navy. There I was a quartermaster. We did like navigation on the ship. Um, After I got out the Navy, I joined the National Guard. I did that for like 7 years. There I was a quartermaster also, but it was the quartermaster job is different. I was supply. I did a tour in Iraq where I was hit with a roadside bomb, and and I received a Purple Heart. After that, I came back. I went through like a year of recovery, and pretty much I retired. I got a medical retirement from the military, and I got a medical retirement from the police department. I was a police officer also, and so currently, for the last few years, I've just been taking care of family, make sure my girls is all right. But now I'm working on my real estate license to be a realtor.
Hey. Hey, thank you. Thank you. And Coco King.
Hey, welcome to my house, ladies and gentlemen. Randolph, I want to thank you. Salute. Purple Heart, that's big. I respect, much respect. Appreciate you for joining us. Thanks for your service. You are the true hero amongst all of us. I appreciate you. Again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my house. I am the Coco King here with Honest-Leigh. I'm glad you guys could join us tonight for tonight's panel. My name is Marcus Jones. I'm from Philadelphia. I did a 4-year stretch in the United States Marine Corps where I met Miss Tamina Griffin in 2002. And Courtney Ward, her husband, also in Okinawa, Japan. In the Marine Corps, I was a multi-channel equipment specialist. That's a fancy name for an IT guy. Currently, I am in sales, but the number one job that I have in the civilian world is I am a dad. Proud father of Mackenzie Jones. That's me. That's it. Thank you.
That's right. That's right. And so I'm actually getting text messages from people who aren't as savvy, but they want to support. So like people like my mom just texted me and was like, tell them I said thank you for their services. For whatever reason, it won't allow me to put it on live, but tell them I said thank you. So you all are getting, and that's not just the only person. I'm getting people that are saying thank you, thank you, thank you. So with that having been said, let's get into a couple of questions that people may or may not ask typically of our troops. First, this is a question I don't necessarily know if I put this in there, but what drew you? And be honest, we keep it a bean, as they say here. What drew you to the armed services? Anybody want to go? You can just jump in.
As far as me, I never had in the beginning. I never thought about getting into the military. Honestly, what happened was I had took the ASVAB. They had the whole school take the ASVAB test, and I did well enough to get into the Navy. So they had called me, and they pretty much asked me, "Have you ever thought about getting into the military?" And I said, "Not really." And they was telling me how they had the benefits of paying for college and stuff like that. So they said, "You don't want your parents paying for your school, do you?" I didn't know about the ROTC. I didn't know about none of that stuff. So I was like, "No, not really. I want to be able to pay for myself." And I went ahead and joined. I joined while I was still in high school. I was 17. So I joined that January, and I came in like July of '96. Yeah.
I remember that. I remember that, Rudy. I remember. Y'all remember. So for those who don't know, Rudolph, Diamond, D Bell, and myself, we all went to high school together. Marcus went to high school with myself too, but he's a little younger than me. But we went to high school together, and I remember saying, like, Rudy, can you swim? I thought you couldn't swim. And he was like, you don't have to know how to swim. All you gotta do is float. And I will never forget that. He was like, all you gotta do is know how to float. Um, so yeah. What anybody else? What drew you?
Same thing for me. I was actually raised by a single mom, and we didn't have the funds to pay for college. So education, I wanted to be the first one on my side of the family to graduate from college. And I chose that benefit tag. It was education that drew me to joining the Marine Corps.
Wow. Okay. Anyone else?
For me, it was, the long line of family members who served. So I was always curious. But I had a father who served in Vietnam who was like, "Oh, hell no, you're not." Right. So when I was of age, it's like you still got that defiance, like, I'm going to do this. So I was like, hey, and I joined when some would say much older than like how Rudolph was. I joined when I was 25, already finished college. So of course you're saying, why then? You got a college, you got a good job or whatever. But it was just like I felt this sense of needing to serve, and I was in a really, really dark space, and I didn't know what was going to happen the next day with me. That's how deep, how dark of the hole I was in. And I joined, and it was the thing that saved my life,
Mm, mm, mm.
literally.
I see you shaking your head, Diamond. Did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I have a similar story. I have lots of family members who served on both sides of my family. My father served. My father did tours in Vietnam. I had uncles. Both grandfathers are all served. So coming up, I was almost anti-military. I didn't think the military was in my future at all. Like I was like, nope, I'm not serving. I'm not fighting. I'm not shooting them. I'm not doing none of that stuff. Like I'm good. It's just not my future. I had bigger dreams, and so I end up I end up joining because it was kind of like a last ditch effort. I didn't have like I had tried walking on to a major university to play football. That failed. After that, I went to school. I went to another school to try to pursue a career in education. I failed at that too. So it got to a point to where I needed to do something. Like, I was 19 years old, and like my family structure just wasn't robust at all. And so I needed to do something. I was like, man, I needed this to save my life. I was in a dark space, mentally, emotionally, and like I felt my walls were caving in, and I was like, "Yep, I need to do something where I need a place to stay. I need to be self-sufficient." And I saw the military as my best bet, and I wanted to be a Marine. Um, Marine Corps, they just weren't hiring that day, right? So like they didn't. I wanted to be a firefighter, and like they were like, "Nah, man, we don't have no room for firefighters." So I ended up joining the Air Force. I didn't become a firefighter in the Air Force either, but my ASVAB scores were high enough for me to get a decent job. So yeah, that was it.
Excellent. What about you, Marcus?
Hey, so my story is like similar but a little bit different. I tried college. I didn't have the discipline to not party and hang in the girls' dorms, so that didn't work. I came home. I worked worked third shift at Wawa, of all places. Saw no future in that. And the funny thing about me is I never thought the military was in my future. I actually used
Mm,
to be like, yeah, I'll never join the military. I had an uncle who did like 26 years in the Army, retired sergeant major. Um, that was like my only exposure as far as like being close to someone in the military. I had another uncle who was in Vietnam in the Air Force, but that was that was it. Like he was in and he was out. So I never really thought the military was anything for me. Tried college, didn't work. Tried working, was like, this ain't it. The dark spaces where it's all similar. It's like I don't know what to do with my life at 19. I'm thinking like all these midlife crises at 19. Like I gotta do something. So three of my close friends joined the Marine Corps a year prior. They were all fresh out of boot camp, so they were all in love with the Marine Corps. So they telling me all these stories about how much fun it is, and I go talk to a recruiter. The college gets paid for. I'm like, yeah, I want to go to college. You get to travel the world. March, I was gone.
Mm.
By April, I was like, I want to go home. Boot camp was a different beast, but I'm glad I joined. I've made some relationships that have stood the test of time. I've got some pretty strong bonds with some people that I would have otherwise never even probably ran into in life had I not joined the Marine Corps. So, and when they told me it was the hardest branch to get to finish as far as boot camp, and they were the best of the best, I had to put that bragging right on the top of my list of things to do. Like,
Right. If you're gonna be a bear, be a
right.
gorilla or
I mean,
whatever. If
we're
you
all veterans here, so we're all like, I thank you for your service, but the Marines run the town.
you
Little humble brag.
do you hear
I was
this?
my ASVAB scores were way too good for the Marine Corps, so they wouldn't have me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They was just too
Yes,
high.
yes, yeah. I agree. I'm not going to talk about ASVAB scores. I didn't say I couldn't get into the Air Force. It was just that when they said this is the toughest branch, it's like, do you want to be? Listen, we're 19. I'm 19 at the time. Do you want to be the nerd or do you want to be walking around BD style? I wanted to walk around BD style. That's all I'm saying. No disrespect. Like I respect. Listen, I tell people now, go to the Air Force. If you're going to join the military, go to the Air Force because the Marine Corps was a great experience, but I also know we did a lot of stupid shit. I'm not gonna lie. And it bears out that I think more veterans who probably came from the Air Force had a little bit less traumatic experience just from the boot camp and the everyday life. Now I do know people who were in the shit in the Air Force, so they still a little rough around the edges. But no, I respect that you took that route. Me now, I would have joined the Air Force, but me back then, I laughed at the mother recruiters when they tried to pull me in there when my ASVAB scores came back. I was like, oh, no, I'm not going, no, I'm going with this guy, the tough guy. And my recruiter had a straight dad bod. He was not looking tough at all, but I was like, I'm going with this guy.
Oh man. I think that so growing up, I was thinking if I was gonna go into the armed services, I actually wanted to go into the Marines. Um, just because that's everybody said they were the toughest. Me and my neighbor, Danielle, and she actually did go into the Marines and like served there for years and like did several tours, became like a drill something, I don't know. But anyway, I just realized when I heard that this is see, I was like psych when I heard that during boot camp or basic training, you gotta take this gas mask off and breathe in the gas. And everybody talked about how your eyes was burning and your nose was snotting. And I was like, I don't. Why am I doing this? Like the thought of that was like, no, y'all got it. I will make care packages. I'll have yellow ribbons up. I'll do all this other stuff, but just not that. So speaking of boot camp and basic training, were were there things that you felt like, were there times when you felt like, yo, I'm not gonna make it through just that part? I'm not talking about tours and things like that, but just that part. It was a time when you felt like, no, this is too much.
I jump in on that one. I actually spent an extra month in boot camp because I couldn't shoot. I come from a small town. We didn't grow up swimming. We didn't grow up shooting. I came from a single parent home.
Mm,
I failed the rifle range, and you
wow.
got to be. Every Marine is a rifleman. So if you don't pass that part of boot camp, you don't graduate. And there were actually 3 other girls that got dropped with me. So we had to get dropped to a platoon that was behind us. I had to do a whole bunch of training over again. And thank God I made it that second time around. But I was looking at it. I was like, Lord, it's either we're gonna make this happen or we ain't gonna make it happen at all. So I was faced with that challenge in boot camp. I didn't know if I was gonna make it or not, but thank God I did. And I was the only one that made it. The other girls got sent home. So
Wow.
that was a challenge in boot camp for sure.
It's funny that you say that, right? So there are certain things. It kind of segues into the next question, because you spoke about how it was you and 2 other women. And one of my coworkers, one of my closest coworkers, she was in the Army. She's a soldier, and she talked about how certain things seem like they were biased implicitly. So she spoke about how the black girls would always get tagged as being overweight, even though she was like, Leigh, we built, and she was built, and that she was like, you know us, we built, we all muscle, thicker than a snicker. But they kept saying that we are, she was like, I'm outrunning, I'm outperforming the other folks, but they're like, your BMI is too high. Which made me think, as an African American, were there ever any times where you felt like it stood out to you being black in the armed services? And the second part of that question is, what do you say to people who feel like black people shouldn't even serve in the armed services and all that other ridiculousness? Well, I'm not gonna say it's ridiculousness, even though it is. But what do you feel like when people say that? So number one, did you ever feel the angst of what it's like to be black and serving in America, that conflictual angst at times? And then two, what do you say to those who are regular civilians or even bitter ex-servicemen who feel like we shouldn't serve in the armed services?
Hey, question before we move on, does anybody else want to comment on their boot camp experience?
Yeah.
I was Air Force, so all y'all know Air Force boot camp was extremely easy. I was actually a little upset in that that's all it took to get into the military. Like for real, I was like, this is it. This was pretty easy. I mean, it was mentally challenging at some points, but other than that, physically, it was too easy to get into the Air Force.
Okay. Well, my experience was kind of like Tamina's. Like, I was in boot camp for 13 weeks. I didn't actually get dropped, but I did face severe, like, mental challenges where I wanted to quit. And, you know, the craziest thing is we used to write letters. Sometimes they had to sneak, sometimes they would give us time. But I think a couple years ago, like, my mom found the letters that I wrote her. Man, I was going through it. I was a mess. Like, telling her, like, she should have stopped me from doing it and all this other stuff, because boot camp, you know, Marine Corps boot camp is like mentally and physically challenging. So I broke down, like, physically in the middle of boot camp, like trying to do like an obstacle course, couldn't complete it. That was like my lowest point in boot camp. Like, I thought I was a shit. Like, I'm sitting there, man, so mad. What are you doing?
Go ahead.
Good? Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you.
I can hear you guys. So,
All right. I don't know. I think I may have messed something up on Marcus's audio. So if you need to go out and come back, that's fine. Let me. There you go. But to the question that he said, I didn't want to take away his moment. He was talking about how it was significant for him in that moment. And it takes a certain level of mental fortitude that he obviously displayed and that you all obviously displayed in order to make it. I have my grandfather was a soldier. My uncle is literally a Navy SEAL. And yeah, he the one that say mind over matter. If I don't mind, it don't matter. Like, he is different. He turned chicken on the grill with his hands. I'm not lying. He's just a different kind of man. But I say all of that to say I've heard, just going back to what I was saying before, back to what Tamina was talking about. Has any of you ever felt any conflict or angst from being black in the armed services? And what do you say to those who may feel like it's too much?
Well, like I said, when I had started my career, I started in the Navy, and sometimes it's hard to. Now that I'm older, it's hard to say if it was race or if it was just immaturity, because like I said, when I was in the Navy, I decided to be a quartermaster, and as far as being a quartermaster, there's not too many black quartermasters. So pretty much I came in as a boatswain mate, and then I had struck as quartermaster because I met this guy who was a quartermaster. He kind of put me under his wing, but then when they put me to another ship, I pretty much was in I was the only black person up on the bridge for the most part. And to me, it felt like
um, things that I was going for, anything outside the job I can get. Like I was going to get my E-SWATs pen. I was trying to get these certain things. But when it was on the specific job, it seemed like they would give me a hard time. Like I had to get qualified for you know as a quartermaster, like doing the navigation. They wouldn't give me the job, even though I passed all the requirements. They wouldn't give me the job. And then they had people come here one day and didn't even know as much as I did, and they got the job. But then I had to look at the whole. I said, well, maybe it's something else I'm doing. Maybe it's, I don't know. But it's just I felt like it was real rough for me when I was in the Navy. But the thing is, like, that when I went to the Army, it was a whole totally different experience. When I was in the Army, like my whole unit was black. And it seemed like I could move up in rank. It seemed like I could move quicker than I did when I was in the Navy. It could be because of the requirements. I don't know, but I don't know. Sometimes it's hard for me to explain. And then it was so long ago. It's over 20 years ago. But in the Army, I think because it's like soldiering. Like when you're in the Army, it's like if you're a soldier, you're a soldier, no matter what color it is. You're like you pretty much. But then the Navy seemed like a little bit more corporate almost, where it's not like people can just stop and tell you do push-ups and all this other crazy stuff. Like they do in the Army. It's like more like it's like a regular job. You know what I mean? And you're stuck in the middle of the water. It's not like you get a lot of you don't be on land a lot. I put it like that. So Navy is pretty hard. It's almost like being in prison almost. It's like you in a 3. It's like you sleep on racks 3 up, and only thing you got for room is like your little little thing there. But I don't know. I just didn't feel comfortable. I didn't really feel comfortable, and I felt like a lot of stuff I was discriminated against. And like and when I got out, I got into it with one of the department heads. And at the time, like I said, I was only like 19. He was 25, and he tried to mess my record up for life. He tried to, like, even though I never been to Captain Mast, I never really got in no trouble. But because we had a disagreement, he tried to like almost try to ruin my life professionally. Because even though I got an honorable discharge, he had dropped my evaluation from like a 3.7 all the way down to 1.2, and gave me an RE4 code, which means you can never come in the military again. So, but when I went for the National Guard, I told them what happened, and when they looked through my records, they said it didn't make sense. Like, it'd be different if you going to mass, you get in trouble all the time, like you always going through something. Like, this don't make sense. So they had waived everything and let me go in. And then when I went to the Army, it was like a whole totally different person. Like, I got so many medals I can't even count. I was making rank very fast. Like, it was like insanely different. The experience was. And like I said, everybody experience is different. I think a lot of it is also culture too, because like when you first come into a culture like that, where you pretty much come from an all black community, and now you're coming into a community that's like predominantly white. It's like you're trying to adapt to the way things are done there. And sometimes it's hard because, like, sometimes we like to be laid back. We like to talk. We like to, have fun, tell jokes, whatever. But it's like a lot of that stuff wasn't there. It's like everything is taken extremely seriously. It's just, I don't know. But it took a little bit of
Adjusting.
me trying to, adapt to that environment, but I couldn't fully adapt there for whatever reason.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank
so you. Yeah.
Anybody else want to comment on that? Thank you, Rudy.
No, I never had that experience. But tangentially, kind of like, so the Air Force is more like a business force than, as opposed to the other armed services. So kind of like what Rudy was saying, like it was an adjustment for me. And I mean, like in the Air Force, the racial makeup of the Air Force is like it's predominantly white, right? Like that's not a secret. But I guess maybe because I was in a small bubble in the intelligence community, like I just never felt that. Maybe because I was young and naive and just so eager to, I guess, succeed and to rank up. I never noticed that if anything was happening to me, it was because of race. Not saying that it did or didn't. Yeah, it just didn't register to me at that time. Like, 'cause that wasn't my focus. Like, and not to say that, not to dismiss if anyone did, encounter any racism, like, amongst the same people that I was involved with. It's just I just couldn't tell, if it did happen. I can't say that anything negative or positively that occurred to me during my career was easily attributed to my race. So yeah.
Mm, okay.
But for me, the one bias that I continually had to deal with was the one you spoke upon, like BMI. When I was in the Marine Corps, I weighed about 212 pounds with 8% body fat. For my height, I was like 13 pounds overweight. But when you looked at me, where was the extra weight? It was all in like my shoulders, my chest, my thighs. They literally made me go get taped every time we had to weigh in every couple months, which meant someone, measuring your waist and, doing a calculator to your height and weight. And then they would be mad. Like, why the F are you in here? Because him, the idiots out there that's weighing me saying that I should be weighing 184 pounds when every day I go to the gym and lift weights. So there's no way that I'm going to be that. Um, when it came to racism, I think the first time I like felt racism was in the Marine Corps. We grew up in an all black community. We from the same neighborhood, so we grew up kind of isolated from the other side. So I remember the illusion of inclusion in the Marine Corps was me and Tamina. We're dark green Marines. The white Marines are just green Marines, and so yeah, that's how they do it. And the craziest thing, it wasn't really the white people, it was the Spanish people who I felt like the most sting from because it was like, we're not nothing close to being black. We're Mexican, we're Dominican, we're whatever. We ain't black. White people didn't have to defend themselves because they were white. If there
Mm,
was any type of correlation to try to like make them with us, it was like, no, we're not that. And the one time something like job related that I can't pinpoint, but I know it was just weird. Was I got non-rec for promotion. Now, you get non-rec, I wasn't even up for promotion that month, but the non-rec goes for like a quarter. And so what happened was the sergeant who non-rec me was a white sergeant, and he in the Marine Corps fraternization is a big thing. Once
can
you
I can I
pick up,
can I say something for clarity's sake? I hear this a lot when I talk to people of a specific ilk. You all use language that regular civilians don't understand. So non-rec, if I'm assuming correctly, it's a non-recommendation. It means it kind of kills it before you even desire to do it. If I'm hearing you correctly.
yes, ma'am,
All right,
non-rec is
great. Go ahead.
short for non-recommendation.
Right.
So
Okay.
typically, you get non-rec or non-recommended when you have, um, like Randolph spoke to you, been disciplined. My record was spotless. No discipline, no nothing. Never NJP, non-judicial punishment. Never had a what's it called to me? The page 13 or what's the
11.
page 11? Never had a page 11, which is like a minor counseling, but it goes on the record. None of that. So I get non-rec by the sergeant, and I was talking about fraternization. So he was all chummy with his little group of lance corporals and corporals. Which once you in the Marine Corps, once you pick up corporal, you're supposed to separate yourself from the junior Marines because you're an NCO now. So I was a lance corporal, probably had 2 years time of service. At the next cut, I was going to get promoted, but he now wrecked me, and the immaturity in me, I didn't even fight it because I was like,
I really don't care. Like, I'm just here. You know, I'm here to do my job. Like, I'm not going to fight it. So, like, even when I went to the saw the master sergeant, I think it was Master Sergeant Jones. Remember him in Miramar? No, you wasn't there. You wasn't in Miramar, so there wasn't you. It was a guy I think named Master Sergeant Jones or something like that. And we were talking. And he was like, "The fact that you don't care shows that you're not ready." I'm like, "What? Like, what do you want me to say? Like, how am I supposed? Like, in the Marine Corps is always this is obedience to order. So if the sergeant say he not wrecking me for whatever reason, and his reason was immaturity, and he was 10 times more immature than I was. I didn't, like Kaepernick said, I didn't have the words or the know-how how to fight that back, being a junior Marine, and you're supposed to follow this chain of command. So that was the one time where I felt like I can't pinpoint and say it was a racial thing, but there was definitely some bias because of how I carried myself.
Mm.
And specifically, I remember when me and Tamina were in Okinawa, we always had bullseyes on our back, especially when we um, weren't in the rear. So we were in Thailand together. Me and Tamina actually were together for my 21st birthday. She got a picture of us riding an elephant or whatever. When we used to go out in town, like the senior leadership, Gunny, Cutlip, and all them they used to tell somebody to like tell us or try to get someone to hang out with us because they viewed us as the thugs in the platoon. And mainly it was because we were black and we just didn't conform completely to the ways of the Marine Corps, like to the T. We still kept some of our identity from where we were from. So yeah, being in the Marine Corps was the first time I like actually felt like, hey, this racism thing is not just like a myth, like it's actually real.
So it seemed like it was for both you and Rudolph, it wasn't blatant. It was seemingly covert. Like, and to the point that you kind of question, was it racism or was it this person just was a jerk? You know what I mean? And again, multiple things can be true. They can be a jerk racist. You know what I mean? But it's like they would have been a jerk had they not been a racist. You know what I mean? Like the racism is just like a little extra sprinkles on the jerk softy or whatever. Um, anyone else want to respond to that? Like the angst or anything that they felt, um, or the part two of the question, what do you say to individuals who say that black people shouldn't serve in the military?
Well, as a social worker, my wish is that having worked with young people, I wish it was mandatory.
Mm.
That's just
Speak
my
more to
thing.
that. Speak more to that. Why do you say that?
For the discipline, for the benefits that they can get in terms of being able to attend school, it's a leg up. But the thing that I think gets missed because some people say, "Well, I went, it didn't work out," is we're not properly educated as a people. We unfortunately our young African Americans go in without a plan. Our other counterparts, our clear skin or whoever way you want to refer to them, they go in with a plan. They know how many years they're going to do. They know what their benefits are going to be or whatever. And so we need to educate our young people about it before they go in. And unfortunately, that does not happen. And then that's where things go wrong.
This is a sidebar question. I love what you said because for me, just so we have social worker, life coach, therapist, right? So for me as a therapist, I'm thinking, what makes the difference? And I think exactly what you said, the preparation from the parents, but also I remember seeing that picture Uncle Sam wants you, right? And he ain't look like my Uncle Sam. So there's no like, like you what it ain't look like my Uncle Sam. So there's no ownership in that. Whereas if we, and this is my individual opinion, if we recognize that that's not Uncle Sam, that is that for that advertisement for a particular group of people, we built this thing. We were a part of the people that built this thing. So because of that, we could take honor in serving to make sure that we create something or protect something for our future generations. I think that if we looked at it from that perspective, then we would have more people do that, because that was the thing that made me want to join the armed services. I was thinking about people in my family. My uncle, I didn't even know my grandfather had served because he had passed away before I was born. But I mean, not before I was born, shortly after I was born. But there are certain things that I think that if we recognize that, yes, this land holds a lot of trauma, but because our ancestors literally bled and died, that this place is as much ours, and some might even say more so in certain instances, ours as anybody else's, that we too can live for and serve this particular nation. That's just my opinion. I think that that would help what it is that you were talking about, Malik. And
Yeah,
it,
absolutely. And I'll do this in 30 seconds. Two examples. My best friend who I served with, whatever, we often would get into these like fights or whatever, because he would say, the unit that we're in, oh, they're racist and that. And I was like, yes, they are, but just focus on you and getting the job done or whatever. And I love my best friend or whatever. So he was he took the easy way out on a lot of things. Whereas for me, I would always try to do my best at everything, basically giving them no excuse at the end of the day to deny me anything. Because all I can say is, hey, look at my scores, look at this, look at that, or whatever. And I held them accountable. Whereas he didn't always do that. He kind of always did the thing just like, yeah, they're not gonna let me excel. They're not gonna let me have that. So it goes again to about going in with a plan, right? It's about someone saying, hey, you know what, this is what you're gonna face. And throughout all my whole career, most of my units were all white. Heck, when I went to Iraq, my whole unit was white. I was given a white squad from West Virginia. I literally got taken out of my squad. West Virginia, hillbillies. Most of them had never ever seen a black person, and here I was telling them what to do. But because I knew my job, I knew what we needed to do, whatever, I never had any problems. Now, would I go and visit any of them in West Virginia? Hell no. But on that, and this is to Rudolph's point or whatever, Army is structured a little bit differently. When it comes down to completing the mission, all we see is the uniform, and the color thing goes out the window, So I just wanted to share that little quick piece there.
I think Diamond, did you want to comment? I don't know if you're what's going on with your camera. Did you want to comment, Diamond? No, he don't want to comment.
No, I'm
That's all right. That's all right. You want to mute your mic now, or at least try to. There
If
we go.
I can just add, I think what Malik said is amazing. We don't have enough mentors out there having this conversation. This right here is an important conversation to be addressing the benefits of the military. I do believe that every young individual should serve, at least do a couple, 2, 3, 4 years to understand what it means to really have some accountability. For the ones that aren't ready for college just yet, go ahead and get your feet wet, learn some marketable skills that you can walk away with. When it came to racism, I remember that time, Marcus, a little bit, but I think I was more naive at that point. But later on in my career, I didn't run into overt racism, but I think I dealt with a little racism / being led by a female. I had to
I was about to ask you about the intersectionality piece.
yeah. Some people just wasn't ready. You know what I'm saying? So I had to carry myself a certain way. I had this officer, and actually I was an E7 at that time. I was a gunnery sergeant. I was stationed in New Orleans, and I used to speak to him every week. In the military, we give people the proper greeting of the day, right? You see somebody that's a higher ranking, it's your obligation to speak to them, give them the greeting. Hey, how you doing, sir? Good morning, sir. Good morning, ma'am. Whatever. I would speak to this man every time I saw him. He was a captain, and I would notice that he wouldn't speak back. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I was a little quiet. Let me be a little louder next time. I would speak to him again, and he still wouldn't speak back. So I'm like, all right, something is up. Either it's because I'm black, or maybe it's because I'm female, or I don't know what I've done to this man, but there's some problem, something happening. So there was one moment where I was upstairs. It was completely quiet. We were in the little command deck up there where the commanding officer is. So it's nothing but a few offices. And he walked behind me, and I spoke again. Good morning, sir. And he walked by me and didn't say it. So I look.
Wow.
I'll let you know right now. I said, "Good morning, sir." I had to get loud. I had to use my big girl voice because evidently he didn't hear me the other times that I spoke, and that woke him up. So I've dealt with that a little here and there, having to prove myself, maybe prove my rank, because I was like, look, he's been in just. Actually, I had been in longer than he was. He was an officer. He was higher ranking than me. I was enlisted, but I had to prove myself that I earned what was on my collar, just like you earned what's on your collar. So proper greeting goes both ways. So that's what I dealt with. I didn't deal with anything overt, but definitely having to prove myself a little bit and make sure I spoke up for myself, not only as a Black woman, but also as a leader. So.
Thank you. So, it's funny that you say that. So as I'm listening, I think about like the young people that I work with and how young people now, I definitely agree that we all in some capacity should serve, right? But they don't see the importance of it. They're like, why do that against a system that has obviously shown you that they don't care? So I'm not going to go through, in their mind, they see it as going through hoops in order to try to prove to someone that you're valuable. Whereas I don't see it that way. I see it as being actually a good steward over what my ancestors died for that I may get. You understand what I'm saying? Speaking of being a good steward and some people being angry or whatever, what do you all think of Colin Kaepernick's I want to say like kneeling and the whole everything that came from that? What do y'all think like he has the right to do it, or you feel like nah, it's disrespectful, but whatever? What do you think? Diamond pops back up on that note. uh don't all answer at once.
I support it. I just finished talking, so I try and let somebody else talk. But I absolutely support his cause. Look, that man protested silently, and we so many times we like to put words and ideas and emphasis around the wrong thing. This is what's happening in the world. We see it, everybody see it. It's on video 9 times out of 10 every single day. We're seeing what's happening. It has nothing to do with the flag. It has nothing to do with our freedoms. And it's just so contradictory that so many people want to say something but have never worn that uniform, that digi that Malik got on right now. So if you're really about that life, before you speak on it, you should be required to have been over there or actually signed that dotted line. So I absolutely support Colin. I'm behind him and his protests. He should have done what he did, and we appreciate him for doing it.
Got it.
I
Anybody else?
just
Anyone
thought
feel?
it was distasteful because I didn't fully understand what was going on, or even the fact that there was something called paid patriotism. So it was a marketing ploy by the NFL to probably get more people to join the military. Well, it was a marketing ploy by the government using the NFL was the paid patriotism, and to make it seem like the NFL was part of our rally cry. I don't remember watching the national anthem at games as a kid at home. I know every time you attend a game in America, no matter what sporting event it is, professionally they play it, stuff like that. Um, I think Colin Kaepernick was well within his rights as an American, the rights and freedoms that all of us on this panel have fought to protect, to peacefully protest. Like, this is a free country. There is nothing. Now, we
can't do that because we signed the oath, we signed the contract. So no, we couldn't be in the middle of a parade and decide we're going to take a knee, no matter what it is. But that's what we chose. But the Americans that we chose to protect, they're allowed to do anything they want as long as they're not burning the flag, stomping on the flag, or anything like that. Those
Mm-hmm.
are That's against the law. But to take a knee during the national anthem, I didn't see anything wrong with it once I did a little research. Initially, I thought I didn't hate him. I wasn't like get that SOB out of here, but I'm like he could have picked a different way to protest, but it was his protest. He needed to get as much attention on the things that he wanted to speak about and the stuff that he believed in. So boom, I thought it was brilliant on his part, and yeah, I didn't have a problem with it once I actually did some homework and understood.
Right. And so your mic keeps going in and out a little bit. So basically, for those who couldn't hear, Marcus said at first he had an issue with it, and then he did some research and he found out about paid patriotism, which John McCain, and I'm not the biggest fan of John McCain. I do think he had hands down one of the best speeches for somebody who didn't win the presidency. Like when they're like, like they didn't win. It was hands down one of the best that I've ever heard. But he said that he had an issue with it. He called I don't know if he coined. I think he did coin the term paid patriotism. He said you shouldn't have to be like manipulated in order to support our troops. You shouldn't. And that's what he said. So that's how I found out about it. And the fact that at first Colin didn't know what to do. He was just sitting down, and an actual service person told him, "No, don't sit down." And in the armed services, when we want to show respect for something, we actually take a knee. So he was told by a service person to take a knee. And he started taking a knee, and I have mixed feelings about it because I felt like when people don't want to listen, they just going to use anything as an excuse to not listen. That's at the end of the day. They pivoted and made it about the flag when it was never about the flag.
Right. So that was a way to quash it and get rid of it and just get people against it. Because people like to follow, right? Maybe, people, in America mainly, we like to follow, like whatever's easiest. And it's like, yeah, if you can co-opt something and turn it into negative and just, yep, completely like disassemble it and just ruin it and just get off that talking point altogether, which is legitimate. It's like, yep, you just turn it into something that it's not, and that's damn near indefensible. So,
Which is the
yeah,
same thing we
I
saw.
personally I never had an issue with Colin Kaepernick with what he did. I mean, as a veteran, I mean, like I support their right to be able to protest any way. Like I literally remember standing across the street from those from the Westboro Baptist Church people, who were protesting. Like they were protesting, like when service members would come back to America. Like where I used to work, I mean, like we used to see them all the time. Like it was tough to see, and it's like, man, you realize like these are bodies, like these are people coming back in these boxes. Like it's terrible. You give them respect and all that, but not too far, you would see people from the Westboro Baptist Church out there protesting. Like I supported them too, even though I disagreed with everything and they were like how they were protesting, what they were saying and what they were doing. I totally disagree. Wasn't on board with it, but I mean, one of the freedoms that I fight for in this country is their ability to do that. And like in protests, like look at the history of protests in this country. It's never comfortable. Like not at all. If Colin Kaepernick was kneeling at home, nobody would give a damn why he's upset or what he's bringing light to. It's like, no, you get it in the public face. Like you do it, you get it to where people are uncomfortable. And his platform just so happened to be sports. So I was personally was all for it.
Interesting.
Never
All
took an
right.
issue with it.
All right. And I think what you said was true. You get someone to sully the reason for a thing by associating it with something that's dear to people's heart, right? Or I'm associate something with your pain, and then that way I'm going to get people to dismiss the lesson because now it's associated with some type of pain or something that you hold dearly. I.e., we see it happening right now where people talk about CRT. It's CRT's the devil, and they can't even tell me what CRT is. They can't even name 5 CRT theorists. They can't name them. You know what I mean? Whoever wrote White Fragility, you know what I mean? It's like You ask them these questions and they can't name it, but it's working. It's working because now, based off of that, you got enough people angry enough. What do they go out and do? They vote. They make life choices based on the propaganda that has hit them. So we see that. Anybody else want to comment on that before we move on? I know we're going over. I only want to go over about 10 minutes if that's okay with everybody. Anybody got to jump off, that's fine. But I really wanted to ask the last two questions. All right. So I spoke about trauma. It was mentioned earlier. To those who, to all of you, could you speak to what do you think when it comes to the necessary assistance that our service members need to deal with mental health issues? So those who have served, do you feel like it is important for them to take care of their mental health? And why do they get it? Why don't they get it? So as far as mental health support.
I want to speak on that because I suffer from PTSD, and it's something that definitely need to be looked into more, because a lot of what happens is like I said, I came back injured. I woke up on Walter Reed. So when I woke up, first thing I wanted to do is get life back to normal, get back home with my family, go back to work. Like I said, at the time I was a cop. Wanted to go back being a cop, wanted to go back to everything it was before I had left. But the whole time I'm pretty much in denial. I'm broken up. I can't do what I used to do. And then I had like real bad anger issues. I mean, like very, very bad anger issues. And to the point where I cussed out my own father. And at that point, I knew that I had to get help. And that's when I went to the VA and went through therapy and things like that. But a lot of stuff that I can look back on now that I did, if I was in my right mind, I would have never done. So it's like when you come out of a war zone, they said that all your like aggression is like very heightened. And it's like people think you can just shut it off, but it doesn't shut off right away, especially when you in the mix of it. You're seeing your friends die over there. And just a little bit, like I said, I was hit with a roadside bomb. One of my best friends, he was in the car with me. He died. Then the gunner, he died. Like the vehicle got blown up and it rolled downhill, and everybody on that left side of the vehicle pretty much passed away. And the only thing that saved me was I had gained some weight in the doctor said that the bone didn't go all the way through my skin. If it did, it would have got infected and I would have been gone. So after coming through all that, it's no way. I mean, some people, and the thing is, everybody is different. Some people come back like me. I have faith in God. So when I came back, I had faith that I was going to come through. So no matter what, my healing came faster than it should have came. But just like going back to church, getting back into the community, it's like people don't understand where your mind is at. They say, why is Rudy acting so weird? Why is he, he's cutting people out? Why is he so angry all the time? But you don't see it as the vet right away. It takes time to really see that you're going through this. You think you're still the same. So I think it's very important. And it's different for every vet. Some vets, but I'm telling you, almost every vet I went to over there with, they was different when I came back. When I talked to them, the way they talked, they was very angry. Like I remember I saw one guy say, "Oh, maybe we can meet. What are we going to talk about?" But now it's 20 years later,
It's funny, like all those guys who was there with me, we just had a golfing party down at Top Golf, and like I remember when we came back, how they act and how they act now is totally different. Like you could tell that they've been through some healing now. But a lot of times it could take a year. It took for me. It took about 4 years for me to really feel like I was really ill from everything. So it's not an overnight thing.
Thank you. I remember when you went. I remember you kind of let us know, like, pray for me, y'all. I'm, getting deployed or whatever. And it's so crazy. I don't watch the news, but I remember hearing about you on the news, and something in my soul said that it was you. And they didn't say your name initially. They were just like such and such and such. And I stopped. And my mom was like, "You don't even watch the news, Liana." I was like, "Mom, wait." And then they was just like Officer Rudolph Robertson. And I was like, and I remember just praying. I ain't know who to call. I ain't had your wife number. I ain't have nothing. I was just like, yo, God. I remember that. I remember that. So again, thank you just for your services. I remember that. And I remember you saying, like, when you came back, you were like, "Yo, it's different." You didn't have the words for it. You said everything is just different.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it just and a lot of people don't realize that it just doesn't affect the soldier. It affects their spouse. It affects the kids. It affects the whole family, the whole community actually. Because people who would come to you for advice, people who will come to you for anything, it's like you're a different person. So it's like it really affects everything.
Yeah.
So I could say two quick things. So in terms of mental health and those who serve, it's important for the public to know that mental health problems is across the board, whether you served in combat or you didn't. You actually see more incidents of individuals dealing with mental health problems who didn't serve in combat, right? Second thing is understanding the Reserve National Guard side versus those who are active duty, which means full time, right? We see that in terms of access to services, those who served active duty, they typically have greater access to those services. And remember, when they're coming back, they're still with their unit. They're, day in and day out. So they had that camaraderie, had people looking out for them. Someone's got their sick, someone's watching out for them. Versus those of us who served the National Guard and reserves, what are we doing? We're going back to the civilian world. And to what Rudolph said, the family members are not educated. They don't know what they're looking for. They just know that, what, Malik is slamming stuff. He's threatening people. He's sleeping longer than I do, and things like that. And they're just like, oh, he's just mad at the world. So it goes back to, again, in terms of educating everyone, not just the soldiers, but also those on the outside, but also just individuals just understanding it's across the board. It's not just, oh, you only see with this type of soldier or this person who served over here. It's across the board.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, Malik is kind of humble. He does a lot with serving veterans in the mental health field. And I believe Tamina does as well, in her, from just doing a little research on my panel. I believe she does as well. So yeah, Malik is certified mental health first aid instructor, and he does he does all the modules, but one of the modules that he does is for veterans specifically. So mental health first aid is designed to help individuals, whether you're blue collar or white, no matter where you are, identify the signs and symptoms of when someone is having a mental health crisis, know how to intervene until the crisis is resolved or until appropriate help arrives. So there's different modules for that, and Malik is one of our head individuals when it comes to veterans in that particular way. Tamina, did you want to speak to that? to that? Because I know that's your field, you know.
I just wanted to add that we do need the support. I actually deployed as well, and we were bombed regularly. I didn't have it, right next to me, but we were constantly bombed. We call it Camp Cupcake. However, when I came back, and probably a few years ago, I had two therapists. I had
Mm.
one that did not look like me, and I had one that looked like me. So
Mm.
that is really what we need, because we're already dealing with brokenness, already dealing with all of our other background and cultural hurt and trauma. And then to have to sit down and have to explain that all over again about how I was raised and this and that. We need more therapists of color available for us. That way we don't have to re-traumatize ourselves all over again as we're having these discussions and looking for therapists that look like us.
Excellent. Thank you. So, with that having been said, you spoke about how we need more of this. I think the last question that I want to ask is, what do you think that we could do as civilians that would better serve and support our troops when they come home or even when they go away?
Well, my dream is so I get where it comes from. When people say thank you for your service, but what I really want to hear people say is, how are you doing?
Mm.
Like, genuinely stop what you're doing. You can say thank you for your service, but how are you doing?
Right.
That goes so much farther. So much farther, because you got to keep in mind, you got many who have served, and guess what? They're trying to forget that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how are you doing? Guess what? Everyone's open to that.
Right. That's a good point. Just ask how are you doing? Anyone else?
I think patience, giving veterans a chance. A lot of us come back, or a lot of us separate from the military, and we're looking for the opportunity to either be hired or join an organization. And some people can be scared of us and combat veterans coming back from over there. But, just understanding that things happen and we will need time to heal. So that patience from civilians is really what we need to help us moving forward and feeling like we're part of that organization or part of that community and not ostracized as being, a military or veteran service member.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. So with that having been said, we only went about 15 minutes over. I just want to say thank you again. I always say, how are you doing? But I'm also going to say thank you for your service, because I think that it is important, and what you do now is important also. Really quick, does anyone want to say anything to veterans as it pertains to advice if they are coming out of serving or being active? Does anyone have any advice for them?
Go to the VA. They got every program available under the sun to help you
Yep.
with the transition.
Make your VA work for you.
Yes,
Absolutely.
just do
Make
that.
them work
That's
for
something
you.
I
Yeah,
didn't understand when I got out, but yes, go to the VA. Use that resource over and over again.
Find
yeah, and I say be patient. Just be patient. Get yourself together. Like I said, VA got a lot of veterans don't take advantage of the VA benefits. Go down to the VA. Go down to the regional office, wherever get your go through the process. It's worth it. And and I know you want to get back to your regular life, but take your time. Make sure you right. Just take your time. There ain't no rush. They ain't going nowhere.
I just like to say, find your identity. We lose ourselves so much, especially depending on how many years you've done. You'll come back, and just like Rudy said, those people they're different. even the ones that haven't deployed, we are all different than what we came in our branches of service. So find yourself, take that time to get back to who you were before you put that uniform on. So
Malik, did you have anything you want to say? Or they already said it?
I second everything that everyone says. The
All right.
VA, the VA. It's not our grandfather or our father or our mother's VA. There's been a lot of improvements. And it's that someone said it's there. Sometimes you gotta navigate through it or whatever, but it's there. So get it. You're owed that. You are owed that.
Right. All right. So yeah, again, in summation, thank you all for your sage wisdom and your advice. I do agree that there should be some type of service. That's what Israel does. For real, for real. Everybody got to serve in Israel. And I'm not mad at it. But it's also because they know that they belong there. So part of it goes back to us letting people know, nah, when they say this land is your land, this land is my land, this land is our land too. And so we can own that. All right. With that having been said, shout out to Tamina Ward. Tamina, can you please tell people about your social media presence real quick? Tell them your handles.
So you can follow me on IG at coach_Tamina Ward. My website is www.coachtaminaward.com. I'm also on Facebook under Tamina Ward. Thank you.
Right.
I appreciate it.
And on Instagram is what?
It's coach_Tamina Ward.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to give their self a shout out?
For anyone looking for mental health resources, you can go to www.healthymindsphilly.org. On there, you can find out some information about the Veterans Mental Health First Aid that Leigh just spoke about. Although it's not being offered right now, you can find out about the adult mental health first aid that is being offered in its virtual version. Hopefully, in the coming months, the virtual version of the veterans will come out. And I can be reached at Malik, MALIK, Gray, GRAY, at PHILA, PHILA.gov.
Right. All right. Anyone else? Well, on that note, folks, again, we only went 17 minutes over. As we always say, love God, love your neighbor, and make sure you take care of yourself. Thank you so much. And I don't think we should be saluting troops, but we could just say thank you. But thank you again for your service, y'all. Peace.